Members, we'll just start. Seems a bit lighty. You're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Health and Community Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Day Road, Strabane, on Thursday, the 15th of May, 2025 at 4 p.m. So commence just with the roll call. So Alderman McMorris.
Here, Karen. Online.
Alderman Montgomery.
She'll be late.
Alderman Wilkinson.
Karen, he's going to join later.
Okay. Councillor Boyle. Councillor Clark.
And Shaw.
Councillor Deany.
And Shaw.
Councillor Duffy.
And Shaw.
Councillor Farrell.
Here online.
Councillor Harkin. Thought he was there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Heaney.
John.
Councillor McDaid.
Here.
Councillor Hutton.
And Shaw.
And Councillor Tierney.
Here, Karen.
Okay, thank you. Can I just check Councillor Heaney and Councillor Harkin?
Councillor Harkin's here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website. And item number 4 is declaration of members' interests. So we can declare those now or as we go through. All right. And we will move on to our deputations. So I would like to welcome Michael McGinley and Ronan Flanagan from the Department of Education to provide a progress update on the RAISE programme. You're very welcome, and I'll hand it over to yourselves.
Thank you very much, Chair. And can I just open by saying we're delighted to be here today to update the committee on the work of the RAISE programme within Derry Londonderry, and I will open some of the conversation and hand over to Ronan that will give some locality data, and then I'll close the presentation and we'll be open for questions. So thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, I just want to set the context of by way of a bit of a reminder of what the RAISE programme is. And as you can see from the presentation there, it's very much a whole community place-based approach to tackling educational disadvantage in 15 localities across Northern Ireland. It certainly supports the department's vision that every child and young person is happy, learning and succeeding. And that is at the core of what RAISE is. And certainly that has reflected the approach that we've been taking thus far. Next slide, please. At its core, the programme has 2 key strategic objectives: raising achievement and addressing educational disadvantage, and raising aspirations through a whole community approach to education. Those steer what we've been doing by way of the community engagement. Everything that we intend to do through the programme will align and link back to those particular objectives and the series of intermediary benefits that we'll touch upon just on the next slide, please. As you can see from that list of programme benefits, there's quite a range there. But again, what we anticipate is as we develop through the strategic area plans within each of the localities, we expect needs, prioritise needs and requirements within each area to be picking up on those high level benefits, but within the context of what the need is in each of the individual localities. As you can see, they're very much framed underneath the 2 strategic objectives. For example, under raising achievement, raising standards with a focus on increasing literacy, numeracy and digital skills outcomes for all pupils. So those issues have been emerging through the various stakeholder engagement that we've been undertaking right across all of the raised areas, but equally within Derry, Londonderry, and it's been really important as we draw that out going forward. For example, there as well under the raising aspirations, increasing the value of education to families and children. The whole ethos of parents supporting parents in terms of how they support their children again has been emerging, for example, in the various areas as well, and certainly we're keen to see what is possible within a local context in terms of how we can support positive difference to improve the overall educational outcomes for children and young people within Derry, Londonderry. Next slide, please. I'm going to hand over to Ronan. Ronan will touch upon some of the more specific data within the city that he's been exploring through his engagement with stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Ronan Flanagan, I'm the coordinator for the RAISE programme, Derry, Londonderry. I'm also covering Limavady as well. If you can move on to the next slide, please. So here's some of the data on the map that many of you would have seen at the last meeting. From that last meeting, the statistics that were available obviously have been updated from school census data for 24-25. The figure for children and young people, including nursery school, that have been identified through the parameters within RAISE for the three localities, sorry, the three SOA larger areas within Derry, which are Altony, Galvin, outer north areas, and Craigan. There's 5,850 children and young people. 63% of these young people are in receipt of free school meals. The average for Northern Ireland is 25.9, so well above, but you'll notice that going down the figures, that all the figures for these areas are much higher than the Northern Ireland average. 1,740 is the number of school leavers. 629 of those did not receive 5 or more GCSEs, A*C, including English and math. And that's based off the figures from 2017 right through to 2022. Just over 1,000 of these pupils, 18% of them with special educational needs category 1 and 2. Again, much higher than the Northern Ireland average. And 715 of those pupils with an actual statement of special educational needs. 34 newcomers, 57 traveller pupils, and 93 are looked after young people. So work in the Derry, Londonderry RAISE locality. If you go on to the next slide. Engagement to date. When I've met you the last time, I was only a couple of weeks into the role, and it was sort of me on my discovery of what services that were in Derry that were working with children and young people. That's right through from early years to neighbourhood renewal, councils, sport, and everything in between. I've done an open call for anyone to come and get information and see if this is something that would suit them. So I've mostly from here we've had engagements with obviously the broad range under the identified objectives of raising aspiration and achievement, and that's community and voluntary groups. Schools and school networks, your nursery schools clusters, primary schools clusters, your area learning communities, which is predominantly your post-primary schools. That gives an opportunity for someone to actually attend the meetings without all the principals or all teachers being there, and they can feed back the information. Statutory organisations coming meetings like this with the council, Education Authority, Western Health and Social Care Trust, and then the strategic networks that are available within these communities, including neighbourhood renewal, locality planning, and community planning. There's also been consultations with Stranmillis, with the children and young people, and parent in focus with the parents that were identified through community partners. Stranmillis done their panel with a cohort of young people from across the town, from all the different areas, and the parenting group, there was one done in the city side and one done in the water side, and that was just emailed out for people to put that out to parents to attend. I also done a supplementary consultation with young people out in the YMCA in Drumahoe. Again, that was a group of young people who are from various schools across the town. And we looked at things like their aspirations, their journey in school, what they'd like to achieve, aspire to, what the barriers are to their education. And that included home life, community life, just in general. From the last 6-7 months of all these consultations, there's been a number of emerging priorities based on the strategic objectives raised, which is raising achievement and raising aspiration. Now, this is over 2 slides. So obviously the emerging priorities are quite broad, and some of them complement each other, but I'll just go through them there. So regarding raising achievement, all stakeholders, that includes parents and young people, and all the groups that I worked with, identified early intervention supports cradle to career, which is identifying gaps early in a targeted way, wraparound services that are consistent, connected, alternative pathways within schools and communities. So that's youth work in schools, vocational practical pathways, inside and outside of the formal education system. Those who show early signs of not achieving via traditional methods, marginalised, excluded young people, and those on reduced hours at school. I'll just do the aspirations part because there's more achievement in the next page. So aspirations was around parent and family support, parenting programs, homeschool community support links, parent responsibility, making use of likes of family support hubs, parent educational programs, and increasing the value of education experience and breaking into generational barriers, not only with the parents, but also the young people. Next slide, please. Back to raising achievement, we looked at pedagogy and attitudinal change, looked at teaching styles, learning styles, and the system, understanding each other and the barriers that teachers face, parents, and young people face. They're all different, but a lot of them are also the same, just regarding their situation or stage in life. Shifting family and children views, valuing education and achievement. And then finally, training and professional development under raising aspirations. That's sharing best practice, learning expertise, and collectively becoming more trauma-informed, looking at ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, child sexual exploitation and child criminal exploitation too, was something that came up from various stakeholders. And then the final aspiration is strengthening the collaborative and strategic working practices between statutories, communities, families, and schools. And that's relationships between schools, communities, parents, and families, and young people, who's best placed to support them with the collective input. So putting the right people to the right service at the right time, but doing that in a collective way, because there could be more than one service that they do need or require. And then to make it more efficient, have a joint up thinking between statutory, voluntary, and community service sector for the ability to share information. That was identified, particularly when you're going after community-based assessments. They come in through the community and then go to the health service, and then there's maybe a gap in the joint upness of it, and it becomes less efficient, and that's where the gaps occur. So other key actions that have been delivered by the department, I'll pass over to Michael.
Thank you. Just then, by way of updating members in terms of ongoing key actions that we have going forward. We have issued detailed guidance around the development of the strategic area plans, and those plans will be absolutely critical in one, identifying the need that has been determined through the various consultation that Ronan has undertaken, and that need will be prioritised in terms of what the requirements are in each of the areas. Those plans will then be owned. They'll be owned by the locality. They must have clear alignment to the strategic objectives and the benefits that touched upon earlier on. And those will then be submitted to the department for consideration. There will be a panel chaired by the programme director, and the panel will also comprise staff from the Education and Training Inspectorate and another senior civil servant from a department elsewhere within the Northern Ireland Civil Service, but will have experience of education or place-based funding and they will review each of the plans to determine if they're complete, accurate, supported by evidence and data, etc. And once that's agreed and approved, we will then issue calls for projects on the back of that, and it will be to deliver against the locality project or the locality objectives that have been identified within each of the plans. We published Friday week ago some guidance just around how those locality projects will be identified and brought through and assessed. So certainly members can see that. If members don't have that, we're happy to share that through the council. And equally, we have issued terms of reference for locality reference groups. Those locality reference groups will be representative and reflective of each of the localities, and they will act on behalf of the wider stakeholder network within a locality to help inform, shape and drive the plan forward. They will have a really critical role. Ultimately, Ronan is the locality coordinator for Derry Londonderry, will facilitate that plan, but the plan is actually owned by the locality, and therefore that reference group will have a really, really important role. The one thing I should say just in relation to that, whilst it will have an important role in terms of identifying needs and shaping and informing the plan, it won't have a role in terms of allocating funding. That will come back into the department and will sit with programme board, etc. within the department. Next slide, please. And then in terms of next steps, obviously Ronan will be continuing with meetings of the locality reference group. The strategic area plan will be brought to a stage where it can be endorsed by the group and submitted then for consideration by the assessment panel. And once that's approved, we will then issue calls for locality-led projects to deliver against the objectives, and then we would like to be in a position then to move to allocating funding to deliver those. The one thing I should have said just in relation to funding, the funding for this particular programme comes from Shared Island Unit. It is covering 15 areas. It is covering sort of two elements of it. Obviously, the locality piece, which Ronan's leading on within Derry Londonderry, and about 60% of the funding, which is about around 8.8 million, something like that. And then there's 30% for cross-cutting initiatives. Those cross-cutting initiatives are centrally managed projects. We have provided some options to the minister. He has recently made some decisions on those, which we will be publishing in due course, just so the public can see sort of what's being taken forward through that part of the programme. Overall, there's approximately 16.6 million sterling, and that's over a 2-year period. Our plans are being developed on a 4-year basis. We are certainly hoping that subject to positive evaluation, we will go back to the Irish government and try to secure some further funding to deliver the much needed sort of programmes and interventions to help improve educational outcomes for children and young people across all localities, including Derry Londonderry. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Michael and Ronan. So I'll just open it up to the floor, and the first person that is indicated to speak is Councillor Boggs.
Very much, Chair. I'm not sure if I need to, but I'll declare an interest as a school governor within the councillor and also a member of the GTCNI. Thank you very much for coming back, first of all, and Ronan will know that we had a rather lengthy discussion the last time that you were here. And I wasn't overly impressed the last time that you were here, to be quite honest. And to be fair and honest again, I don't see what has changed since we were here with you. We voiced concerns here about the data that was being used, about the modelling, and I don't want to rehash all of that over again. The same has been from speaking to colleagues across all the other 10 councils. Similar concerns were raised and nothing has changed. And we are all aware of the concerns that were raised at Assembly level as well, both directly with officials and with the Minister, and nothing has changed. And from what I can see, and I'm from the Strabane end of the council area, but by no way means to be parochial. and will not take away the advantage that this may have for some in the Derry end of the council area. But there's money and funding, much needed funding, being diverted away from areas that need it more than some of the areas that it's going into, and that is just to be absolutely frank about it. And I really don't mean to be parochial, but if you come to any school in Strabane or any community, because I know this is about an area-based approach, not about giving funding to individual schools. You come to any community in Strabane or in the rural area in this city and district, because it's not Derry, Londonderry, whatever, it is Derry City and Strabane District Council. It is very hard to tell those principals, those community leaders, that they are less important because of the data that is being used by the department. And it was flagged at every opportunity, both here in other councils and at assembly level, that the data and the modelling wasn't right, and nothing has changed. And I would ask in that, where is the evidence that the concerns that were raised were taken into account, either here or at official level at the assembly, because I can't see it. And it looks to me like the harder the people pushed and fought about the direction of travel that we were going, the more that the department and the minister dug their heels in. That has got us to the position where we are today. And I just don't know where that engagement went to, because it's critical. And what we would have liked to have seen, what I would have liked to have seen, and on behalf of our grouping, is that would have been meaningful engagement, and there may have been some shift in the direction of travel, but it hasn't taken place. Just in relation, and I'll premise all that by 16.6 million over 2 years is not a massive amount of money. It isn't. But there are now 15 localities that we are talking about being included in plans over 4 years. So it's not just this year and next year. The plans that are being put in place, regardless of more money comes or not, are over 4 years. So what are we to tell those communities and those schools and school leaders, and more importantly, those pupils who are being left out, what are we to tell them that is going to change between now and 2029, 2030, if this is the direction of travel we're going? I also have concern that some aspects of the programme run an increased risk of duplication, because there is already good work going on between schools and community groups. Local neighbourhood renewal, NIP workers, local community growth partnerships, they all do some of what is being proposed within the RAISE programme. Additional classes for GCSEs, additional classes for literacy, for numeracy, that all already happens. So again, what is happening is 15 localities will now have additional money for that. Meanwhile, the locality here in Strabane, out of our consensual grant money, we will still try and fund additional GCSE classes, while somebody 14 or 15 mile down the road, that money is being freed up, in my view. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be corrected. So it's just around the duplication. And then also, just if you could touch on how this impacts on AOTIS. We've talked about maybe how it impacts on reduced hours there, but is there a place for AOTIS as well? But it's just to say, and I do believe, and to be fair, having heard from Ronan the last time, I know probably how hard people will work to make sure there's a success in the 15 localities, and this isn't necessarily getting at yourselves, but from a senior department level, to send people out, to speak to councils and engage with them, and then to be completely ignored with what we had to say, I just don't think it's good enough, and it doesn't serve anybody well. So just if there could be some clarity on some of those points raised, I would appreciate it. And I wish the localities that are included all the very, very best, and the schools and the pupils that it will help. But I just think it's important that we put on record, or from ourselves anyway, that there was engagement, and it doesn't look like it was meaningful, because we are in the exact same places we were whenever the programme was first announced. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Would you like to respond, Michael?
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for your comments. I suppose, I mean, it's not the first time we've heard the comment about the methodology and the data, etc. And I suppose, to go back to that, I mean, there was a comprehensive process undertaken looking at the data, a range of published data sets, and a series of indicators, 7 indicators in total, that span both educational disadvantage and socioeconomic disadvantage, were used in order to rank the super output areas, and they were then sort of prioritised based on GCSE attainment. Now GCSE attainment is the sole measure of education performance that we have across Northern Ireland. So that was the reason for it, and certainly is a fair and just reason for using that. I suppose in the context that may not be a sufficient answer to address your concerns, but certainly there was a robust process undertaken for that particular purpose, and the methodology and data have been published in order to show that it is transparent and open. In terms of shift, some concerns certainly have been expressed around neighbouring areas. To that end, the Minister has, and that was in guidance that we published back around, I think it was about the 19th of March, we published some guidance within in which it sets out that some flexibility is allowed for some of the localities to draw in some neighbouring areas or areas of particular strategic interest to a locality, but equally that won't result in any increased funding going into that locality. It'll be having to deal with additional pupils potentially coming in that fulfil the raised objectives, etc., within the existing funding envelope. So that would remain. In terms of duplication, part of the engagement with the locality coordinators are undertaking is very much engaging with a range of providers and stakeholders within each area, with the aim of determining what resources are going into those areas, what that's for, because we don't want to duplicate. We genuinely, that is not, it's not a case of coming in and just doing the same stuff. What we're wanting to do is to enhance, strengthen, in order to generate improved outcomes for the children and young people within those areas that have been identified as being of greatest need. So we're very keen to avoid that. There may be things that are going on within areas that are demonstrating really good outcomes, and maybe it's appropriate then to expand those and do more of that within some areas, because maybe not all children and young people are availing of those. So we are looking at that quite closely for that very reason. It is a finite pot of money, and we have had various feedback in different fora that we've attended about that in terms of not enough, etc. But it is the pot of money that we have, and we want to make it go as far as possible to achieve the best outcomes that we possibly can. In terms of impact on EODIS, I'll ask Ronan to touch on that.
So EODIS has been identified. They've been invited to come to meetings, but just capacity demands haven't been attended. But I have been in contact with them because a lot of their young people live in the areas, are still attending the schools that they come from those areas. And if you just take Derry, for example, the EODIS is just on sort of the age of, I'm not sure you're familiar with the area, but that's based in the Long-Term Youth Club, which is just on the fringes of the Craigan area, but very much so because those young people within EODIS would be hitting the indicators that Michael's talking about. And sort of fortunately, and knowing that work in the community, a lot of those young people do avail of community supports on top of EODIS. So we know that they do require them and they do need them, but EODIS is very much welcome to be part of this. And just maybe to touch on what Michael said about duplication as well. I've been trying my best throughout just listening to people when they're talking about objectives and things and what they want to do, that it's not duplication. It's more so about building capacity, but building the right capacity. So it's just not adding numbers for the sake of adding to an already oversubscribed program, but it's more about the capacity building as regards to duplication.
Thank you very much for that. And just briefly then, just to follow up, I know that the department will say there was a comprehensive process undertaken in relation to the data, and it is transparent, it's out there. I suppose that's why we're asking so many questions, because we can see the data that is being used, and as local representatives, we don't agree that it was the right approach. That's where we're going to differ, and I don't think, but we're going to move on. Just my final question then, although I probably could ask more, but I won't. In the department's view, is the area-based approach still the best approach? Because with a finite pot of money, I would have thought it was best to target those that absolutely need it, rather than the community where you may have schools that don't. and I know this isn't about individual schools, it's about a community approach, but there are now pupils who are going to be able to avail of something that maybe is better suited or more needed in another area. So from that perspective, that we see the likes, and not just in Derry, not just in the Northwest, right across Belfast and Mid Ulster, there are pupils in grammar schools who may be identified that may go into one of these programs. Whether it's right that they're included or not, that's a different story, but the opportunity is there. Whereas we have pupils who aren't in grammar schools, who are on the lowest rung of the ladder in terms of academic achievement and advantage, that aren't being included in the areas. So is an area-based approach still the best, or should it have been more targeted to the actual pupils that need it, rather than taking an area and hoping for the best that whoever needs it within that area gets it?
Thank you. Yes, an area-based approach is still the right approach. I mean, ultimately, this flows from the approach taken, flows from a recommendation emerging from the report of Fair Start, and that did commit to having an area-based approach, or recommended an area-based approach, and that was adopted and moved forward, and this seeks to deliver upon that, and certainly, I mean, I can understand the members' comment and feedback on that, but equally we through the analysis of the data, etc., have identified what based on the data those areas of greatest need. So yes, the funding is still going into those areas where the greatest need based on assignment, etc., where the biggest need has been identified, and therefore needs greatest level of support in order to improve the overall educational outcomes for those children, young people. There will be learning garnered from that, which will then be used to inform departmental policy, etc., going forward, and will be shared widely across all areas in order to try to improve and enhance education provision where appropriate, etc. But certainly the area-based approach would still be the right way forward at this particular point in time.
All right, thank you. I am also going to declare an interest as a member of GTC NI and a teacher in Strabane. So next on my list is Councillor Clark.
Thank you for your presentation. But look, there was just something flagged up to me during the week. I was speaking to the Traveller Development Officer for the area in Ballyarnett, and she had raised considerable concerns about how the travellers will be reached via Raise. And a note here in your pathways that you have written improved pathways for children which motivate and support learners at risk of exclusion, marginalisation and underachievement. And unfortunately, traveller children experience all three of those. So I think it's very important that the traveller development officers are included in any talks going forward. Travellers are an Indigenous group, and I think as an Indigenous group, they should be supported with their educational attainment and aspirations as well. And something else that this lady has asked me to raise was she wasn't invited to Monday's meeting, and I find that a shame. You know, she's heading the traveller development operation in Ballyarnett, and she wasn't invited to the meeting. So I think it's very important if you're going to provide for all children, and I know there's 57 traveller children on this programme, that you at least make contact with the traveller development people. It's of paramount importance, really. Thank you.
I have spoken. It was brought up at the meeting, and I have added her to the locality reference group. Oversight on my behalf when I was sending out the invite, but she has attended all the meetings. She's been very helpful, and she's been very vocal and informative to me about the needs of travellers in the Ballyarnett area. Going forward, she will be on my list, and I have sent off her name and details to be included as a locality reference group, and I'll follow up with an email to apologise for overlooking her for that meeting, but that was a genuine mistake.
That's great. Thank you. I'll pass that on anyway. Thanks.
Thank you for that. All right, next is Brian.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to the guests for their presentation today. I suppose my contribution will likely be similar to Councillor Boggs, in the fact that I was looking forward to this presentation because I was expecting to hear some changes from the last time that we met back in October, I think it was. But it appears that very little, if anything, has actually changed. Councillor Boggs, when he was speaking, I think twice apologised for being parochial, and I don't think he should have. It's very clear to anyone who's looking at this project and looking at the data that's coming out of this council area, in my view, that if this is seriously trying to tackle underachievement and disadvantage, it's absolutely astonishing that there is nowhere within the Strabane area which is included in any one of these areas. We raised a number of concerns in October last year around how the data was used, what data was actually used, and how that matched up to the areas that the department were suggesting. We haven't got a clear answer on that. It's my view that they were using old maps. I don't know if that's correct. We haven't. No one has told us one way or another how these have been formed. My DEA will likely benefit from this fund, and that's great. But I believe that we have a responsibility as councillors for Derry and Strabane to speak up for people right across this district. And the fact that there is nowhere in Strabane that is going to be included in this, I believe, sends a message out to people in that area that they're going to be left behind by the department over the next number of years, because this project is going to be the department's focus. It's my view that the meeting that we had in October and the concerns that we raised back in October either weren't listened to or were deliberately not actioned upon. And I think that that's very, very worrying going forward. I do hope that those young people in schools and communities that are engaged in this project get the benefit from it and get exactly what they need out of it. And it does help tackle educational underachievement for those pupils. But it should be, in my view, trying to tackle educational underachievement for all pupils across this district and those that are struggling. It's my strong view that this project won't, given the way that it's been designed. And I would like this to know, in terms of that, I think that you're hearing today that we feel that our concerns have been ignored. How or what can we do to try and get them listened to? Because I think it's very, very important. I also heard 16 million over the next number of years. But did I hear correctly that the department are taking 30% of that 16 million for projects which they intend to run themselves, and then the remainder of that will go to the community stroke schools type projects? And if that's the case, how much of that 16 million will actually be going out and into communities and won't be held by the department? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. In terms of questions, I suppose first off, in terms of the old maps data comment, I mean, as I mentioned to the councillor earlier, the data was there was a range of data used going back over a period of time to ensure it was given a good sort of reflection as to the situation, the experiences, etc., right across all localities. I mean, if the councillor is asking a specific sort of, I'm not sure we're going to go back and, well, we're not going back to review. We're not going back at this stage to review the localities. We've gone through a fairly detailed process, and we've published the methodology, and it's out there for people to see. It has identified those areas where the areas of greatest need in terms of educational attainment have been identified. If there's something specific that the councillor wants us to look at, then we'd need to have a bit more detail on that, possibly. In terms of not achieving what it's setting out to achieve, the key thing here is that this is a whole community approach. We're keen to ascertain from communities what they're identifying, the needs by way of educational needs within their localities, in order to bring forward projects that directly tackle the challenges that they see the young people, the children, young people within their areas experiencing on a day-to-day basis, in terms of how they achieve improved educational outcomes, etc. In terms of the money, as I say, it's 16.6 million over 2 years. 60% of that will go into the locality-led projects, with approximately 30% going into cross-cutting projects. It's all of this, be it locality-led or the cross-cutting, will go into communities. That the projects are going to be delivered within communities. The cross-cut ones are simply being managed centrally by the department. So some may require programs to be developed, some may require procurements to be run, but the department will not be directly delivering themselves. They will be procuring or engaging providers in order to do that. But ultimately, delivery will take place within communities, be it through schools or other education type settings. Sure.
Thank you, Michael. Next, I have Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity, and apologies for late arrival. Apologies to the presenters as well, but I have read through the slides and may not have heard all that accompanied the slides. I have to say that there is little that I've heard from my colleagues that I cannot disagree with. Firstly, for those within the common bond area of locality, this is absolutely fantastic. But where does that leave the department's promise and vision that every child and young person is happy, learning and succeeding? What about those beyond what is the common bond of the 15 localities that have been chosen? And I will be parochial, unashamedly parochial, but that wouldn't be unusual for me in this chamber. I taught for 27 years in a rural high school beyond Strabane, Castledurg. I did youth work within that period of time as well, not the day nor yesterday. But it's well enough known that students from a rural background are perhaps even more disadvantaged than those from within the urban setup with regard to the opportunities that can be available to them. And data was mentioned, and if you're looking at biased or erroneous data, it's the old computer adage, rubbish in, rubbish out. So if the data is wrong to begin with, you've got a problem. And what I see being done here is an entrenchment of disparity that is there between the urban and the rural. Now, of those 15 localities, is there any one of them that is a rural locality in the true sense of being a rural locality? So that proper comparison can be judged from the various 15 different localities. Although each is specific, I understand that. But I would imagine that the department is looking for learning from the programme that they can then expand. And will there be funding to expand that learning beyond the localities? Or is it the case that there's an abrogation of that responsibility, and that is then left, as Councillor Boggs has alluded to there, to the local neighbourhood renewal or to the local community growth partnership to pick up the slack that will have developed, and the abrogation by the department of that specific vision that they have. Every child and young person, every child. It's not just the children in the localities. What about the children beyond those localities and at the common bond areas that they operate in? But as I say, for those within the localities, great, fantastic. This is going to improve your outlook, your prospects, but the disparity has to be addressed. And what are the plans to expand the particular scheme so that that disparity can be addressed?
Thank you. I suppose first off, in terms of where does this leave the children, young people outside of the 15 localities? As you touched upon the learning, there will be a comprehensive independent evaluation process associated with this, and what we do intend is to garner the learning from this and share that learning right across Northern Ireland, so that it can be picked up and used in the context that. I mean, in terms of expanding the program, at this stage, there's a finite pot of money, and hence that's why that we've had to go down the path of identifying those areas of greatest need. I mean, as we know, there is a constrained fiscal position, and at this particular point in time, I couldn't say whether there will be an expansion or otherwise, but certainly. The intention is that a detailed program of independent evaluation right across will be undertaken. That will be cascaded out through various means, but that the learning will go across all areas to identify what works, what doesn't work in the context of this, and what we can do to improve things going forward into the future.
Chair, can I make a comment, and I hope you don't regard it as being flippant? But I'm sort of reminded of Chinese whispers here. You know, the old one, send reinforcements, we're going to advance. Send reinforcements, we're going to dance. That's what I'm hearing, to be quite honest, because you're saying there the learning will be there. Is there any indication that the resources will be there to allow that learning to be enacted beyond the localities? Thank you, Chair.
In terms of resources, it's I'm not in a position to comment upon that. I mean, that is dependent on what comes through the department and how those resources are allocated. But as members well know, certainly within the education department, the fiscal position is challenging.
All right, thank you. I'm not sure who was first online. I think it was Councillor Harkin. No, he's not there, is he?
Yeah, I'm here, Chair. To be fair, it was Nairi, so if you don't mind taking Nairi first, I'd be happy with that.
No problem, Sean. It was just a deleted message, no problem. Alderman McMorris.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in, and can I thank two presenters for their presentation today. I suppose I, like everybody else in the chamber today, have thoughts around in the same vein. But I just wanted to ask, on one of your slides, it's saying about attitude changes, and it talks about the teaching styles and systems. And I was just querying that as in regards to teachers. Well, has teachers given feedback about how they will adapt teaching styles or the systems within the school? And also, when we talk about teaching systems and styles, how can we then sit and talk about a locality within that stream of conversation? I'm just conscious, we all know about the underachievement within PUL boys. And in the Waterside area, we have like one controlled school that all of the primary schools feed into the one school. So I'm not sure how somebody who sits in the Altnagalvin ward, do you know what I mean, should be sitting beside somebody who may be underachieving less than that person, and how they could be ruled out or discarded just based on postcode alone. I just fail to understand how that would be merited. Do you know what I mean? Because there will be a lot of people who need education uplifts in all different ways, and how that would be shared. Do you know what I mean? In one school environment within where that locality is only one wee small element of it. I also wanted to ask about, you mentioned about the AOTIS and how the AOTIS and that would be in Long Tower would be in the periphery of the Craigan locality. You know, but I know children that go to AOTIS in Long Tower who are from the waterside. Do you know what I mean? So how does that sit? If you're looking at an AOTIS, that would be in the periphery or perimeter of a locality, but the children within that comes from another outside locality. How does that work? You know, I just see as if, like, you know, and I know you're targeting this to the most need, but that doesn't mean to say that there is no need outside of them localities, you know, and they also need to be addressed. Like, a child from Ayrshire should not be disadvantaged against a child that's from Tullyalley or Carinairn. I just specifically think that it should be targeted to all children who need it, not just localities. I mean, I just think it's absurd that we're even going down that road. Also, I just wanted to ask too about, you know, what was the take up whenever you went to the likes of the YMCA and all of these meetings? Were they well attended? Were they a true reflection of, you know, the community within them localities, especially? And just a last part about the special educational needs children. Do you know, how were they represented? Was there consultation done with do you know, the charity organisations like Fall Down Syndrome Trust or whatever? Do you know, how were they represented at the table? Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just writing up a few things. So I'll take the points that I can answer, and that would be around the pedagogy and attitudinal changes. So regarding teaching styles, that's conversations that came up from various groups, not only young people and parents, community workers, but also teachers as well. So that's looking at possibly using different pedagogy or methodology within schools, be that youth work approaches, which a lot of schools in the town do adopt. That's learning styles, teaching styles to suit how young people want to learn, be it group work, outdoor education, sports, and things like that there. So it's actually quite a broad list what people have done, and a lot of schools already adopt this. That's the pathways that young people can take, and that's maybe the use of non-teaching staff, classroom assistants, etc. Because a lot of young people spoke about how the relationship between maybe the classroom assistant and the teacher is completely different, and that of the youth worker. So regarding teaching styles, that came from everyone, and that was sort of backed up with examples of some of the schools, particularly one school in the Craigan area that has adopted some youth workers and youth work methodology in their school, and it's worked well. So that's where that will be looking at a raising achievement, because it would get young people into school and maybe de-escalate situations before they arise into something further, and allow the young person to regulate and then join the class. Regarding AOTIS, again, you're familiar with the area the AOTIS is in, but the supports that young people who attend AOTIS might receive that in that environment. The engagements like that in the YMCA engagement was a young person's consultation with young people from that were on modified timetables for behavioural issues, for a variety of issues. I'll not go into those, but the YMCA offers them support during school. And I was given the opportunity to go to and speak to these young people, because they would be identified as the young people most at risk or exclusion or marginalisation within their age group. So it gave a fair representation of their journey in school and why they're using like youth provision during school time as a teaching style. SEN provision as part of the locality reference group. I've got Julie McGinty from the Western Health and Social Care Trust. She is also in with the schools. Julie is coordinating the SEN sector for me. She's on holidays at the minute, so I haven't got to catch up with her. But I will ensure that she's including all of those groups where applicable.
Thank you.
Thank
Ronan.
you.
And we have Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and thank you to the presenters today. And look, I don't hold the presenters accountable for the decisions of the Minister or the Department, but I'm going to join my colleagues in the frustration about the RAISE programme. I think that there was a very clear message sent from this council and from many other councils across the north that when we looked at the programme, we believed that it needed to be reformed in order to meet the goals that the Education Minister is putting on the tin, which is uplifting the opportunities for every child across the north to get the best possible education, with a focus on children in deprived areas. And based on this discussion today, it's clear that the Minister really isn't listening, and that's disappointing. It seems like the concerns that have been raised by this council and other councils haven't been taken fully on board, and that's very, very worrying. And look, my concern is that we have an Education Minister who's just systematically not listening because he has a plan for education that he doesn't want to get any input on. So we have, when it's come to this RAISE programme, series of criticisms that have been brought forward and unaddressed. When it comes to funding for education in Derry in the Northwest, again, the Minister, tried to stick and twist and blame everybody else for raising something that didn't exist. We have the turning down of integrated education proposals many, many times in many different areas. And then similarly now we have the Education Minister saying he doesn't need to hear from the Equality Commission when it comes to issues that directly impact students in our schools. So look, it seems to me that this Education Minister has a kind of ideological goal for his time as the Minister. It's unclear what the end product is going to look like, but it's clear that he's not willing to take on a lot of criticisms. So I'm worried about the outcome at the end of his time as Minister, and I'm worried about damage that it's going to do to those children who are going to be left behind. That's the concern. It's great for the kids that are going to benefit from these programs, but it's about the kids who are going to be left behind. These are kids who are already being left behind, and the danger now is that they are basically further deprived of getting access to the best possible education. And look, I don't agree with an Education Minister saying to kids, sorry, the pot's limited. I mean, that isn't a good enough answer when it comes to getting the best education opportunities for everyone. If I was that child and I was that parent, if I was that school, I would be furious and I would be looking to take legal action, because how do you decide one school should be able to avail of educational opportunities that another school isn't? So it's, in the last, there's too many instances now where the Education Minister is just not listening. And I think that's what hopefully that will be the message sent back out of this meeting today. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for the comments. I suppose my role is specifically on RAISE. There was a number of comments there that wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment upon. I suppose in the context of the RAISE programme, certainly that's a needs-based. The minister has taken on board feedback around the need for flexibility in terms of the parameters of some of the localities, allowing that flexibility. If some of the localities want to bring in some areas on the periphery that maybe sit alongside them and actually dovetail neatly with the strategic area plan. So in that context, I would say that certainly he has taken on those views and has responded positively by providing that particular flexibility. In terms of use of the data by way of distributing or by way of identifying those areas of sort of greatest need, that has been driven by the level of funding that is available. It's simply the pot was small for this, and we needed to find a way of a fair and equitable way of being able to allocate that funding right across Northern Ireland, and that was the methodology applied and published.
Thank you, Michael. And one last comment, Councillor Boggs.
Very, very briefly. I just wanted to come in because a lot of my questions were directed to the department rather than Ronan on the ground. And I think some of the plans that Ronan has sound amazing, which reinforces the jealousy that it is very funneled and narrow-minded and myopic of the Minister of the direction that we're going on. My final kind of question for the department side is, and I know you're only here to talk about raise, but maybe if it could be taken back, and I say it with a joke with a jab, although I'm not joking because it's far too serious. I also hope that Alderman McMorris takes her comments back as well to her own party colleague, because we are all singing off the same hymn sheet here, which doesn't happen very often in this place, but we are. And I hope that goes back. And I suppose if there's anything that I would like the department to hear from us is similar to what Alderman Hussey had said. I really believe now that if the department come in here with a different project in a couple of years' time or a number of months' time, is that the department release data, come to us for consultation. We highlight that it has focused on the wrong cohort of people or the wrong area or the wrong school or the wrong whatever. The department then go back again, dig their heels into the data that they've selected, and then come back to us again and try to sell the same thing as something new when it's not, and keep defending. So my question for the department, not so much for you to answer, but to go back to them is there any point in the consultation? Because absolutely nothing has changed when we said the data was wrong. And that's a real issue going forward. Thanks, Chair, and thank you both very much for your time today.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Michael and Ronan. It's obvious that you're working very hard, Ronan, so well done. And we really liked having you on. And you're very welcome. But thank you so much for your presentation and for your time. And we won't keep you any longer. So thank you very much. All right, we will move on to chairperson's business. And the first one is from myself, and it is just to say that there was a working group today, and just to invite in the Rainbow Project and Foyle Pride to make a deputation to Health and Communities as soon as possible. So it's just to get that all sorted. So that is the first piece. The second piece, chairperson's business, is I have Councillor Devine. I think she's online.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm not a member of committee, so I appreciate you letting me come in and speak on this issue today. Officers will be aware that I have been asking for the provision of appropriate changing facilities at Faughans Home in Newton Stewart since September, October 2023. There's one changing unit there and it has been upgraded. The showers have been put into it, but that unit can only accommodate one team. And this is proven to be really problematic for one of the clubs there that uses the council pitch on a regular basis, Newton United. They are the only club playing in the Fermanagh and Western League who don't have adequate changing facilities. Now, last week, initial options for siting the changing facilities were presented to councillors and to some of the stakeholders. And while it's been a long time coming, that's a really welcome step. And I thank officers for progressing that work. At that meeting, I also raised the issue of play provision on the site. There's a small play park there, but the council's play plan recommends that that park is upgraded to either a neighbourhood or a district play park. So that then wouldn't. So there would then need to be toilet facilities or changing places, toilet facilities provided there on the site as well. That site has 2 grass pitches. There are 2 sports clubs with their own facilities there. The Somme Hall is based there. There's a canoe club. Anglers use the site. There's a beautiful riverside walkway around that site. So I think there's just really great potential to develop the site and make it a welcoming space for the residents there, but also for visitors, because there's potential to attract tourists there because there's a scheduled monument also on the site. So today I would ask council if they could develop a master plan for Vaughan's Home to ensure that there's a coordinated and a cohesive approach, I suppose, to developing that site that will include all of the stakeholders and obviously then all of the council departments as well. Now, I know there are constraints on the site. It's on a floodplain, and there was really devastating flooding there in 2017. But I do think it's important that all of the potential solutions are explored and how that site could be developed to its full potential. I think as well a master plan would be really crucial if any funding comes available. We would then have a project that's spade ready and we're in a position to bid for that funding. I also think a master plan and developing that site would really complement the Newton Stewart Town Centre regeneration framework as well. And just finally, I appreciate that the development of a master plan is going to be a longer term project. So I would also like to ask officers if they could explore some short term solutions for changing facilities there in the interim that would accommodate both the home and away teams, and that maybe a paper could be brought back to committee on those options. Chair, as I said earlier, I'm not a member of committee. So obviously I can't make a proposal, but hopefully one of my colleagues there would be content to bring forward that proposal on my behalf. Gurmila Mayogut, Chair.
Thank you, Caroline. Councillor Boggs, did you?
Just happy to make a proposal on behalf of Councillor Devine if it's needed, Chair.
Okay, all right. I know Alderman Hussey wants to come on. Do you want to answer first, Karen?
I suppose members, I attended the meeting last week where a number of these issues were raised. So we're happy to take direction and speak to our colleagues in Environment Regeneration about the master planning piece. And certainly we'll collate and look at what are the potential for any short, medium term options in terms of changing facilities and bring back the paper as requested.
Caroline, could I also just ask that you send it as a proposal under Paula there?
Okay, can do.
And do you have a seconder? Councillor Hutton. All right. Do you want to wait until it's sent on, Alderman Hussey? Are you happy enough now?
Chair, it's simply to support Councillor Devine's remarks, like a couple of other councillors. I attended that meeting. The issue of the play park has been ongoing. Well, it's been ongoing since the Playboard survey, where the shortfall was identified. It's been ongoing since the massive flood that basically wrecked that play park, and the request for the upgrading from a local park to neighbourhood came out of the Playboard survey that this council initiated and was actually part of a recommendation. But nothing has happened since that. So it's absolutely essential that this master plan is put in place. Caroline has outlined quite rightly the attractions that exist around Vaughan's Home, not just in the home itself. The bodies that are already on site, whether sporting or cultural, they're there. There are opportunities for tourism and attraction in that area. The changing room facility is an important one from the perspective of the club going forward. Actually, as Barry knows, we had a meeting earlier on today with regard to the way that football, association football in Northern Ireland is going to go forward. And that particular issue for that particular club is one that is going to have to be addressed with regard to their changing facilities. Again, for clubs in Newton Stewart, that has been an ongoing request that there would be appropriate changing facilities for the pitches that are still there in council ownership. Remembering that the Gaelic Club and Ardstraw Football Club, both of those clubs, they actually bought ground from council and developed their own facilities. But there is still a couple of facilities there that are in council ownership and utilised by clubs. And it's a requirement of the local league that clubs provide changing facilities. And the club are utilising the utilising council facility there. So there's an incumbency on council to agree, as Caroline has outlined there, to the short-term solution to that particular problem. How it can be facilitated, I'm not sure, but the idea of the overall master plan, as she rightly says, is providing the shovel-ready projects that will come together in that jigsaw that will bring together the overall master plan for Vaughan's Home and enhance the entire facility availability, not alone for Newton Stewart, but for the entire surrounding area in the entire surrounding area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Paula, has that been sent through yet? Not yet?
I've just sent that through, Chair.
That's great. Thank you, Caroline. We'll just throw it up on the screen here just to make sure everyone's content, all right? All right. Is everyone content? We have a proposer and seconder, but we're all content with that. Yeah. Do you need another wee minute, Alderman Hussey? Yeah, go on ahead.
Yeah, Chair, Councillor Devine did mention the short-term necessity, that is there as well. Does she intend to include that in the motion? I'm not a member of committee. I'm just like Caroline. I'm in the same boat.
Caroline, is that something you want to add on?
I'm happy to do that if it needs to go through formally like that as well, just for the paper to be brought back.
So do you want to tell us what you need amended on it then, Caroline?
What's wrong?
Just put the amendment and then that bring a paper back on the short and medium term options.
Yeah, happy enough for that. Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Councillor Boggs, will you pop up to Paula?
Have you got it?
All right, are we all content then? Perfect. Okie doke. Radio, we'll move on. And next on my list is Councillor Murphy. Are you there?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for letting me speak today to the committee. Today marks the 77th anniversary of the Nakba, the catastrophic forced displacement of almost 750,000 Palestinian citizens from their homes, essentially ethnically cleansed by a Zionist militia in order to establish the State of Israel. The Nakba was not a singular event and signalled the beginning of decades of brutality, apartheid, repression, and Palestinian citizens have been denied their fundamental human rights and their dignity for generations. And this has culminated in the genocide that we see daily unfolding before our eyes. Yes, this genocide is being televised. Just today, almost 100 Palestinians have died as the missiles continue to rain down from the skies. Of course, the Israeli perpetrators of this brutal slaughter must at some stage in the future be held to account. But today I think that it is appropriate that we acknowledge and bear witness to the inhumanity that has been perpetrated on the citizens of Palestine by the Israeli government and its army. I know that I'm not a member of this committee, so I would respectfully ask that the chair of the committee will consider holding a minute of silence and reflection to remember the men, women and children who have perished at the hands of the Israeli government and its army over many decades, and particularly now. Thank you again for letting me speak.
Chair, if that needs a formal proposal from here, I'm happy to make it.
Perfect. So proposed by Councillor Duffy, seconded Councillor Boggs, and thank you very much for bringing that forward. Councillor Murphy, are we all content? All right. Yep. So we'll start our minute here now. All right. Thank you again, Councillor Murphy, for bringing that forward. Councillor Harkin, and I know I've just seen your message about the deputation. Would you like to ask your question now?
Yeah, just on the deputation, and then obviously I had the Gaza proposal as well. Look, we've had very, very productive meetings of the LGBTQ plus working group, and they're very eager to do a deputation before the summer recess. So if we could just ask council officers to find a way to get it in, obviously, if June's not possible, July. And I just want to, this week is LGBT plus awareness week, and there was a very, very moving launch on Monday. The number of us attended that included the AIDS quilt, and it was a very emotional launch to have that here, and the members of the Doherty family attended that, along with many of the organisations involved in providing services and campaigning for our LGBTQ plus community. And that's happening all week. There's a lot of events this week that are happening, and I would encourage members to attend if they can. I also want to say that it was very disappointing to me, given the week that we're having, that the Stormont Assembly didn't take the opportunity to reverse course on the ban on puberty blockers when they had the opportunity on Monday. I think that would have been widely welcomed by people across the board. And there's going to be a big march and rally this Saturday in Belfast in defence of the trans community who are being attacked by what I would call the far right, and unfortunately coming from Westminster and Stormont as well. So I'm hoping that we can get that deputation included, and just wanted to send well wishes as well to the organisers of the LGBT plus awareness week too. Thanks, Chair.
All right, Councillor Harkin. Yeah, myself and Karen had a chat about that just before. We're just trying to get a date sorted on before the summer, but we're doing our best. All right. Right, and then Councillor Harkin, your next chairperson's business.
Thank you, Chair. Look, as we all know, today marks the 77th anniversary of the Nakba, which was the forced removal of almost 1 million Palestinians in 1948. And unfortunately, the Nakba isn't a single event. It is a continuing event because Israel's project is to remove Palestinians from the Gaza Strip and from the West Bank. And what we're seeing today, what we're witnessing today, is the Nakba, and we have an emergency situation that, as everybody knows, of more than 50,000 people slaughtered, tens of thousands of children slaughtered. But now, in addition to the military attack that Israel is conducting, there is a real threat of starvation. I'm sure people heard this week the World Health Organization issue their warning about the lack of food and how that's impacting people, particularly children, in Gaza. And it's obviously harrowing. It's obviously disgusting. I think the world has demanded over and over again that this be stopped. It hasn't. And I think we should obviously commemorate the Nakba, but we need to continue to look for every action possible to do what we can to stop it. So I sent Paula a proposal that I would like the committee to pass today. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on food, access to food, which is considered a global human right, has called on the Irish government to take a proposal to the United Nations General Assembly for the United Nations to send a peacekeeping force to Gaza to ensure that the citizens of Gaza can access food, because right now, as we know, Israel is blocking the entry of food. They have a blockade up right across the Gaza Strip, and the reason why the UN Special Rapporteur has proposed this to Ireland, he says, look, Ireland is familiar with famine. The Great Hunger here killed 1 million people, forced another 1 million people to leave, seeking refuge all around the world. And that Ireland understands this. So he is appealing to the Irish government to bring this proposal to the General Assembly. If a majority in the General Assembly vote for it, it circumvents the Security Council. So in the interests of backing and trying to do anything and everything possible to stop the genocide, to stop the starvation of the population of Ireland, I think we should call on the Irish government to do this. This is something the Irish government can do. They can bring a proposal to the General Assembly calling for peacekeepers to go to Gaza. And I think, given the state of things right now, why not try this? So I would hope that we would be able to support this proposal today, and for that message to go out that there is a way for the Irish government to take urgent action, and this is possibly one of those routes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the proposal if it's needed, and I just wanted to come in and say thank you to Councillor Murphy too for suggesting the minute silence. I think it's really appropriate, and thanks to everyone in the chamber who took part in it as well. I'm not going to go over everything that Sean has just said and what Pat said before as well. I think we all know that we're in a genocide here, and there's no words to describe it anymore. And starving people on purpose, it's not a famine, it's starvation. It's just unspeakable. So I think Sean's right, anything we can do, and that's what we keep trying to do from our council. We've been really strong on this across the board, and I think that anything we can be doing at all, ever small or big, we need to be doing. So writing the Irish asking for the special rapporteur to send the call is really, really important, and I think it's just something practical. So no, I'm happy to second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDade. Are we all content? Councillor Duffy, do you want to speak?
I was waiting to see if Pat was coming back in, but I don't see him there in the chat box. As a party, we're content to support that. I do think it's a practical proposal of something that we can practically do on the ground. So, the more voices that we raise around this horrible genocide that is just getting worse, the better. So, no, we're content to support that.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Are we all content to support online?
Chair, if I were a member of committee, I would be abstaining. I'm not a member of committee, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Chair, I'll also abstain.
All right. Alderman McMorris is abstaining. Anybody else online? All right.
Sorry, I was trying to get the wee button on there. I'd like to abstain, please.
Okay. All right, everybody else for? It's great, Councillor Farrell. Thank you for that. Okay. Thank you for that, Sean. That's great. And last piece of chairperson's business is Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me in. And my chairperson's business is just to thank yourself. This is the last meeting of Health and Communities of this year and this council year. So I would like to just put on record Sinn Féin's thanks for you and for your stewardship of this committee over the past year. You have shown great leadership, great fairness, impartiality. You have allowed debate to take place when it was needed, and you have moved things on when it was needed. So that was always welcome. No, you have conducted yourself really well, and we thank you for that on behalf of Sinn Féin. So, and I also thank the council officers for all the work that you have done over the course of the last year. This is always a really important committee. I think, no, they're all important, but for me, in terms of some of the stuff that comes through our communities, I think this is vitally important, and the work that it goes on in this directorate is really good. So thank yous for your work over the last year, and look forward to the year ahead. But Caitlin, on behalf of ourselves, thank you for everything over the past year. You have conducted yourself sterlingly, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair, and I would like to agree with Sandra. I think you've been fantastic. I think you've been really impartial and really fair, and you have, like you say, you've moved it on when needed to, but let everyone have their say. So, and I agree, this committee is my favourite committee as well. I don't know if you're supposed to say that, but it is. So thank you to the officers too. And there's so many deputations, there's so much work goes on it behind the scenes as well. So no, thank you very much, and you've done a great job. Thank you.
Great Deputy Chair. Thank you. Councillor Harkin.
Thank you, Councillor Deeney, for letting me in. Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. And just to add my thanks for the role that you've played this year. I think you've been an excellent chair. I think you've done it fantastically. You've been very fair in terms of allowing everybody to get their points across on different issues. So I just wanted to thank you for that, and look forward to being on this committee again next year. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman McMorris.
Thanks, Chair. And just in the same vein, I'd like to thank you for the sterling work that you've done as Chair this year. It's a very daunting thing to be Chair, and you've done it exceptionally well. So I just want to put my note on that, and also thank the council officers who Karen and her team has just made the stuff that comes back, and the research and things that they do to bring papers forward is astronomical. And yeah, we also have to put our thanks on board for them as well. Thank you.
100%, I agree. So thank you for all your kind words, and thanks to the officers for all their help, and as Nairi said there, all their work. Oh, sorry, Alderman Hussey.
Sorry, Chair. As you know, I'm not a member of committee, but I do want to thank you for your impartiality and fairness throughout the year, particularly perhaps towards a non-member of committee like myself. It's been refreshing, and I know Janice is on there, but just on behalf of the Ulster Unionist Party grouping, to thank you for your stewardship of the committee over this past year. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Alderman Montgomery.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. And Alderman Hussey has already got on there before me. Apologies, my daughter's constantly asking me questions. So I just want to put on record my thanks for you doing Chair this year, and also to the officers. You have done a sterling job, and I look forward to seeing who the next Chair is. And thank you.
Thank you, Janice. I know the feeling with the questions while you're trying to do something. But thank you so much, and thank you to the officers for all their help and how much work goes into these committees. I don't know where they get the time from. And thank you, Lorraine, for keeping me right. and to Catherine for jumping on when I've needed her. So thank you so much, and just looking forward to the year ahead, and being back down with all yous again. All right. So that is chairperson's business now. Any matters arising from Thursday, 10th of April? Councillor McDade.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I had raised about this woman, HC 8625, just to say thank you for the response, and just to say, I mean, I did say it last month, but just about how good the staff are. Do you know, I've had a few things going on, and I've had to move a couple of lessons, and they've been really good about being flexible and squeezing them in other lessons when necessary. So I'm going to name drop Garvin. He was really good. So put it out there. So thank you very much.
That's really positive. Thank you, Councillor McDade. All right, and moving on then to item number 8, and that is the Sports Development Reinvestment Programme, and that is Barry.
Thanks, Chair. Members, this is to seek your approval for a reinvestment programme within sports development from 24-25 underspends. Members, you'll be aware of our new reactive physical activity, wellbeing and sports strategy, and you'll see within your paper there in terms of the key objectives and the 4 strategic themes. One of those key areas, members, that we've been working on for some years, the physical activity programme. We have secured additional funding based on our numbers of just under 20,000 for 24-25, and we should have an idea within the next 3 or 4 weeks of further sports development underspends and efficiencies where we have identified additional income from programme delivery to give us an additional budget. So, members, just a wee bit on the sports development grant aid. We previously delivered 2 strands of grant aid for clubs to support for sport and our club maintenance programme. For this financial year, a 3rd strand for governing body strategic sport partnership programme will be piloted, and you'll be aware, members, we have some budget within rates this year for this, and you'll also be aware that any successful applicant must achieve a threshold of above 60%. So for the 3 programmes, we've currently a budget of £115,000, and those are all through rates. If any programme's oversubscribed with applications over 60%, we're requesting that any available underspends be reallocated to those organisations to ensure as many clubs as possible are supported. The amount required would not be known until the early summer after applications have been received and assessed. Based on previous years' applications, somewhere around 15,000, we believe, may be required across all grant aid strands. So, members, in terms of the remainder of the underspend money, we're looking your approval for the following programmes. You'll see within section 3 there. So, programme delivery to increase participation of underrepresented groups. Again, our physical activity referral programme, our elite travel bursary, and a monitoring and evaluation framework. So we're looking to allocate the budgets towards those 4 key themes. So the recommendation is that you approve the earmarking of 42,000 from 24-25 sports development underspends to cover the cost of programmes listed below. Sports development grant aid, 15,000. Increased participation in underrepresented groups, 10,000. The physical activity referral programme, 6,500. The elite travel bursary, 5,000, and the monitoring and evaluation framework, £5,500. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Barry, for the report. I'm happy to propose the spend and the allocation of those monies, Barry. I think, you know, council are up there when it comes to promoting physical activity and being active. And promoting activeness is actually promoting better physical and better mental health within our community. So I'm really happy to see that there is another bit of money. Would love to see more, because I think that if we did have more, the job that could be done in creating those sort of programs for people that need them, but it's also supporting those underrepresented groups and smaller community organisations. The active citizenship money is brilliant. We can see how that's rolled out through communities and giving people opportunity to learn to swim, etc. But again, we would love more of it. So happy to propose, because the Be Active strategic vision is more people, more active, more often. So with this, we will reach more people, they will become more active, and hopefully we can do it more often. So thank you, Barry.
Thank you, Councillor Hutton. Councillor McDade.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Barry, for the report, and I'm happy to second it. I just wanted to come in and say I was at the Diversity Ambassador event yesterday, and one of the things that was agreed with what we're doing well within council is our kind of diversity and making leisure facilities accessible to everybody. So I think it's just worth mentioning it here, because obviously if we're trying to reach more people and reach that kind of those smaller groups and kind of harder to reach groups, we actually are doing really well with that in council within our leisure facilities. So it's just to kind of say good work on that as well. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDade. So we have proposer and seconder. We will move on then to item number 9, which is the consultation on proposed amendments to the Food Law Code of Practice and Practice Guidance, and that is Seamus.
Thank you, Chair and members. I'll be brief. The Food Law Code of Practice provides councils with guidelines on how to enforce food safety and hygiene legislation. The draft consultation response was prepared in collaboration with environmental health teams across all councils, and members are recommended that you note the contents of the report and approve the draft consultation response.
Thank you, Seamus. Do we have a proposer? Proposed Councillor Boggs, seconded Councillor Clark. All right, that's great. Item number 10 is the Derg Active Project update.
Members, it's just to note that the situation has moved forward as of this morning, and we have had a response from DERA in respect of all of the elements of environmental conditions that relate within the DERA portfolio. So there's been an engagement with planning officers this afternoon with further information just in terms of clarification to be provided very early next week. So we'll bring back a further update in respect of this issue, but also on the global spend profile for the remaining funds that have been allocated to us to the June committee meeting.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor McHugh.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks to Karen for that report and for the confirmation there that NIE have eventually responded to council officers regarding those planning discharges. I think it's actually quite galling that a government department is able to effectively stonewall council officers who are trying to communicate with them, all the while delaying a £3 million project where the bill is rising and rising as every week passes. Just think it's a sad state of affairs that a government department can do that. But anyway, we have light at the end of the tunnel, and I just want to commend first and foremost our own council officers for the work and the dedication that they've put into it, bringing the project thus far and overcoming the many hurdles that have been placed in their way. But thankfully, due to their diligence, we have, as I say, light at the end of the tunnel. And I also want to just thank as well some of my own political party representatives, local MLAs and the West Tyrone MP, who were very cooperative when I approached them to try and use their political influence both at Stormont and through Orla Begley's office to contact both NIEA and the DERA Minister, who's ultimately oversees the NIEA, to try and push this on. Whether those efforts were resulted in this today, I don't know, but I do believe that we should at least put on record our thanks to them. But hopefully now, this is I know there's still a couple of maybe clarifications between council and NIEA, but through talking to officers, I'm confident now that this delay will be removed and that the project will hopefully be turning its on very shortly in the next few weeks. So well done, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Rory. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity, and I agree fully with Councillor McHugh again on the issues that he has highlighted. I'm glad to hear that I wasn't the only one asking people to put a flea into Minister Muir's ear in regard to this, because the hold up from NIEA is absolutely atrocious what they've done, And I think that the attitude that they seem to be taking to our council officers around this whole thing was just, brushing us off all the time. And as Councillor McHugh has highlighted there, the longer the project sits there before you put it into action, the costs rise. And we're in a limited budget, limited by what we've received. So all of those points taken on board, but I think the real thanks from us all in the wider Castledare community has to be to the tenacity of our officers as they pursued this. It's been rightly pointed out, there have been numerous issues. NIEA is one that is at the end of it. I'm sure there are a couple of other issues that will arise going forward. I'm aware of one, but the tenacity of our officers is to be commended for what they have done in taking particularly the last part of this. And of course, we're moving on to phase 2 with regard to the town centre, but thanks to all involved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. So I'm taking it, Rory's not a member of committee. Councillor Boggs.
Proposed.
Perfect. We a seconder. Councillor McDade. Perfect. All right. So we'll move on then to open for information. I'll just run through them. Stop me if you want to talk on anything. So item number 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair. And it's just to let everybody know we had the political champions meeting this week at the Guildhall, and the badge and the recognition assessment panel meeting has been set for the 19th of June, which will take place over the course of a whole day. And there will be both political champions, some young people, and other stakeholders will be invited to come and talk to the panel. So I just wanted to, we're hoping for recognition, conditional recognition would do, but it's just to acknowledge that that panel meeting will be taking place, and to wish everybody the best of luck. Thank you, Chair.
Perfect, Aisling. Thank you so much. All right. Have we a proposer and seconder to go into confidential? Proposed, Councillor Boggs, seconded Councillor Hutton. Keep me right, Colette. Perfect. Thank you very much.